Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Contest Round podcast. Now, this is episode 25. God, what's wrong with me? And that's probably because I'm recording this on a Thursday, just because I'm taking some time off, and I'll be back with fresh content on Monday. So Dan's very kindly agreed to record this on a Thursday, daytime for him, nighttime for me. In any case, if you want the podcast, you can find it on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, and iTunes podcast. And this is episode 25, entitled "I Want to Suck Your Blood" and Venom, because it's going to be largely focused on Variant 5, what we can speculate. Obviously, we don't know any info. Even being in the CCP, we have no info of what's going on. But we'll get into that in a second. And I'll bring in Dan. Hello, Dan.
Hey, Rich. How we doing?
I'm doing good. If you don't know already, Dan is Frontline MCOC, who you can find on www.frontlinemcoc.home.blog. Make it a homepage. Make sure you go there every day. Follow Dan on Twitter. Links are always in the description. You can keep up to date with stuff going on in the community. I think that's a good little kind of reminder for people.
I like the plug. Works for me.
Yeah. A lot has really happened this week, I'd say, with the Canadian difficulty ramping up. And actually, I say a lot's happened. To be honest, not a lot has really happened since...
No, not too much.
No,
it's been a little bit of a slow week as we've settled into July. We're post roadmap, and I mean, considering the news dump that the last couple of weeks have been with the roadmaps, Alliance Quest update, season 19 of Alliance War, it's good to hit the pause button for a little bit until we start ramping up things again, because there was so much going on to keep track of the last couple weeks.
Yeah, I know that I think there's still like fallout from a lot of the dev diary stuff, but it's good in some ways because it's kind of put in place my future plans. Like my plans at the moment is to 100% Labyrinth for Legends by this Sunday or today, which would be but we're recording this on a Thursday, so timelines and synchronizations out of the window, and then by the end of this month is to do Act 6.2.1 right the way through to 6.2.5 100% in preparation for next month's change in the champion boss fight. And I think a lot of players are doing stuff that they don't normally do. I've seen Frojo34, he's been doing Variant 2, and it's a case that I suppose because there's not much content going on apart from the side quest, the Canadian difficulty, which we'll talk about in a minute, players are really kind of preparing for the future. You kind of finding that, Dan, or kind of tackling content they're not normally done before?
Yeah, so my plan is tomorrow, Friday, which is, obviously in the past now if you're listening to this. I'm going to get my initial completion of Act 6.
Oh, yes, of course.
Take on the Grandmaster. So I've been putting that off for a little while just because there's been so much going on, but got to do some studying on the fight tonight, tomorrow morning, get that out of the way, do an opening. And then I'm really going to chill on my main account for about the next month. And, I'll do the monthly EQ, I'll do Canadian difficulty, but there's no, I'm 100% all the variants, and I'm not going to touch Act 6 again until they nerf it. So I'm just kind of going to, go about my business. And I really want to focus on my second account and writing some guides for the early acts. So that's kind of where my focus is going to be until the first boss rush hits at the end of the month. And then once those start hitting, and of course Variant 5 comes out, then I'm going to redirect my efforts towards my main account again and writing guides for Variant 5. I'm super excited for a new variant to come out, and the guides for Variant 3 and Variant 4 on my site get the most consistent traffic. So it's clear to me there's an audience for walkthroughs for variant content. So going to give the people what they want.
That's a good point. It's something that I've kind of put off. I'm going to do two variant guides, two Variant 3 guides technically. There's going to be one that focuses on what to do against the two Magneto bosses prior to the buff, but what I'll probably do is I'll make that video in a certain case that I can edit a new section into it, which then allows it to be more relevant to then post buff.
Yeah,
it's going to take a little bit of work to do, but this is the thing where, like, you're right. If there's interest for those particular things, then yeah, for sure. I think it's good as well that well, I don't know, because like it's difficult to gather the opinions and thought processes of every single people in the community, which we'll talk about in a minute. Something with the survey, where people are at to say, like, I mean, for me, I like to take the game as chill as possible. I play a lot of other games in the background, which I don't cover any YouTube on. So it's nice to kind of spend a bit of time not feeling forced to do X, Y, and Z because, I can wait around. But there's a lot of people that are super passionate about the game to go, I want new end game content. I want somewhere to whale out on. I want somewhere to spend my money, which is, it's crazy, but at the same time, I guess that's something that's got to be catered for.
Oh yeah, you definitely want to let the people who want to go hard and go fast have something to do, because I think there were many stages to the unrest that the community experienced, but for those people at the absolute end game, the people who 100%ed Abyss, 100%ed Act 6. They got bored. There was nothing for them. And, they just got, out in front of their skis as far as the rewards went, because they got these Act 6 rewards, they got the Abyss rewards, and then suddenly, the only other T5CC out there was top 20 AQ and finishing in, master level for Alliance War, which both take a lot of time and effort for very small percentages of random classes.
Yeah.
So you could see why they just were like, wow, I don't have anything to do. I can't really move the needle. So I think, we've talked about this before, but I think, Clobbering Times addressed that, Seaton addressed that. There was a number of people out there who, that was their pain point, that there was just nothing worth their time.
Yeah, and that's weird, isn't it, to kind of put that being a pain point. Obviously for myself, I do love MCOC, but it has to be a point where I've got to go, I need to do other things in my life, and I've got other areas of interest. Not that other people would even share or have any kind of like care for my own personal interest. Obviously on my YouTube channel, I would go, hey, does anybody want to hear about my new book that's written about my tortoise in a very kind of like light and kind of like childlike adventures? No one's interested in that. If I was to do a video about that, no one would have any. Well, I wouldn't say nobody, but it would be like, could I expect 44,000+ people to have any interest in that? No, that's not going to be the thing.
But a little bit off topic.
It is incredibly off topic. But that's the thing, isn't it? It's just like a lot, like people. I see on Twitter, like under Seaton's posts when he's talking about 7 Deadly Sins. He likes the game. He's passionate about the game. But there's always people they're going like, oh yeah, MCOC. It's just like, well, he's doing his thing,
Yeah.
You can't knock someone who's passionate and enjoying something, because obviously that's when content is good and interesting, when people
Absolutely.
are passionate about stuff. And I know I'm still very passionate about MCOC, and obviously hope that comes off. I mean, it's the reason we've got the podcast, because we're passionate about stuff with it.
Yeah.
But that leads us on to something. We'll come back. I think this leads us quite nicely into talking about the survey,
survey, yes.
So if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to throw up now the he says, with the magic of pressing a button that does not work. Come on. So you'd like things to work out through the magic of, there we go. Right, on screen at the moment on YouTube. And we'll be talking about this a bit more, so those that are just and only listening, we can talk to you about it. Was the survey. So if anybody remembers, we talked about this in Marvel Contest Champions News. Dan talked about this on the site and as well on Twitter, and it was pretty much shopped around. This was the MCOC survey 2020, and to put people in the kind of picture, this was done and. Obviously, correct me if I'm wrong with any of this, Dan. This was created prior to the events of May, or was that the same time as the May feedback?
It was end of May, early June, we were collecting the responses. So we got about 4,100 players to fill out the survey during a couple
Wow.
weeks, end of May, early June. So this is pre-roadmap. This was sort of issued during the time of peak unrest before Kabam started to really respond.
Yeah. And so to give us a few like parameters to kind of explain this further down for those that may be unsure or maybe didn't take up the survey, they were sent out something that had different areas of the game. Yeah.
Yeah. So we touched on a few different areas. One of them was the Corvus timeout issue, and but I think one of the most interesting parts of it was just trying to figure out where people were spending their time in the game that they most enjoyed or least enjoyed. So we gave people 7 different game modes, right? The monthly EQ, the main story act, Alliance Quest, Incursions, Alliance War, Arena, and then the so-called Everest content, Realm of Legends, Labyrinth, Abyss. And we said, all right, we want you to rank these 7 game modes from your most favorite to your least favorite. And just to see where the ratings would come out, and also to identify certain pain points with the content. And I think we were able to find that in different groups, because we had the prestige data. We also had people say, what was your prestige? So then you can sort people. It's like, all right, well, how do the plus 11K prestige players compare to the 7,000 prestige players, right?
Yeah.
And so on. So we kind of divided them up into different groups of 1,000. And there was actually some really, really interesting stuff that I think identified certain pain points. And I know we're just publicly releasing this data now, but it was stuff that I was aware of during this whole feedback process, and definitely influenced some of the feedback I was giving Kabam through the CCP during this whole process.
Yeah.
So starting off, monthly event quests were the most popular game mode.
Yeah.
And I think that underscores how important that is, right? Every month you get something fresh that keeps you hooked in the game.
Yeah.
And it's consistent rewards. But we saw a very consistent number of likes for that game mode until you got to the players that are over 11,000 prestige, and then there was a huge drop off in interest in the monthly EQ. So you've got a game mode that's super important for every level of the game, but then there's a huge drop off in how much that game mode is enjoyed by the end game players. So that to me points to the need for cavalier difficulty, right? The end game players didn't care about uncollected anymore because it was a walk in the park. They've got rank 3 6 stars for uncollected, which is Act 5, Act 5 Chapter 2 supposedly level of difficulty, so they could roll through the content, probably auto fight some of it, and the rewards didn't matter. So that was part of that end game unrest. Like, it was there in the numbers.
Wow. Yeah. So, it's incredible seeing the level of feedback from players coming out for this. And where you've marked in red, are these the specific points of the most uninterested, and green?
Right, exactly. So in green is the most interested per game mode, and the red would be the least interested per game mode.
Yeah.
So just like I said, trying to identify some pain points.
Yeah, because looking at the stuff, I am disappointed to find out that end game players are finding no interest in incursions, and obviously, speaking from someone that, I don't know if I'm technically not an end game player. End game, I'm kind of a mature cavalier based on this.
Yeah.
But if I kind of like get Labyrinth of Legends done, I get Abyss of Legends pretty much like done to a degree within the next few months. I end up going to that end game category. I still plan to play incursions as I enjoy it because it's something different. It's not something to say like, okay, well, what am I shooting for with that game mode? It's a case of going like, well, what amazing interactions can I get out of this champion? And funny enough, myself and Dan are kind of like speaking in the past. We've gone back to the future because we're going to be talking about something in a minute that or maybe we're not. I don't know. We're doing a trial of like Mr. Sinister in incursions on Friday, which you should have seen, and I will probably do a kind of a video following up from that as a thing. And this new series that we kind of came up with the idea of is just, I don't know, I really like it. I like the idea of something.
I think it's gonna be fun and different, and it allows us to appreciate champions in a different way.
Yeah.
Sort of open up the pool of champions you can use and find different uses. So yeah, I'm super excited to get to run with Mr. Sinister in incursions. He's got this cool ramp up that I don't think too many people know about based on his SIG ability, and he's got a few synergies that are actually are pretty handy. So I'm looking forward to that run on Friday, and then I just love that you do like a whole recap of that. But when you talk about incursions with endgame players and them rating it so low, that's a direct reaction to the rewards being related to 5 stars. There's no 6-star shards in incursions, so the endgame players are like, it's fun, but if I have a limited amount of time, it doesn't get me anywhere.
Yeah, I suppose
so that's what that was.
So that's the thing. It's difficult, isn't it? Like, do you have to, and the kind of the narrative to push is, do you have to be incentivized to do incursions? What are you doing? Are you doing it for fun? Are you not? And I guess that's the thing, isn't it? If you are looking for something that is rewarded back and you are incentivized for doing it, that's obviously why there's going to be improvements to incursions, like the addition of 5,000 6-star shards, which I'm kind of like, if I was to be a betting man or a guessing man, I would probably go with the highest rarity thing you can get is about 27,000 dark artifacts. That it would probably be in the region of about 35,000 dark artifacts. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds about right, because I think there's a cap of 55,000 artifacts in incursions. So it can't be higher than that unless they're going to raise the cap. But yeah, that feels about right. And honestly, like this data, this is some of the stuff I was looking at when I was giving feedback about incursions. And I love incursions, so I was giving feedback about the game mode. But I also said, I think you guys have an issue with your end game players, that they're not buying into incursions because of the rewards. It's not gameplay related. It's because of the rewards. And if you look at end game players, right, they didn't get that 11,000 plus prestige by slacking. These people are maximizing almost every minute they play in the game. They have to, because they want to keep up.
Yeah.
You don't get on the edge by doing stuff just for fun.
Yeah.
Right? So if they're like, well, if I can find something that is more useful with the time I have to play the game, I'm going to do that. If Arena gets me further, even if it's not as fun, I have to play Arena.
And that's the thing. The Marvel Contest Champions, as you nailed on the head, it's like, it's not, I don't think it's a game ever meant to be fun. It's just a competitive grindy game. And skill-based grindy game with obviously RNG based luck systems within it. I always get like people flame me because I'll say like, it's a this type of game or this type of game. It's like, well, okay, I'll put it into like 4 different categories of games, but effectively it's not. It's a heavily grindy game. Whichever way you look at it.
Yeah, but if you want to push it, certainly is.
Yeah, too true.
Yeah.
Or spend your way to the top. Either way, that's just what you've got.
That also works.
That does also
Some
work.
people were doing that last week.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't spend as much as I thought I was gonna. Like, I thought I'd spend a lot more than I did, but I just reached a point where going, do I really want to buy another one of this? Do I want to buy like this? And I was kind of happy with going. I spent £200. I didn't spend in June, so I thought, well, I'll spend in July, and I'll see where it gets me, because like I'm not overly fussed of what's there, and I think I might just now save units for Scarlet Witch crystals, which I'm hoping.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, you can't tap out on the Scarlet Witch crystals now.
No, I'm committed.
You've been driving that train for years.
Yeah, I just like imagine like there's this, in Family Guy. There's this thing where like so it's someone making money. It just there was this guy like throwing tumbleweeds in like a street, and he just looks at the camera and goes, "You're all laughed at me. You're all laughed at me. Well, who's laughing now?" It's just yeah.
Well,
references.
you're gonna have to update your monthly series to be when is 6-star Scarlet Witch coming to the contest?
Oh,
That's the only logical conclusion. You're gonna have to fill that time. That was like a video a month for you.
it was, yeah. I think even Kabam were getting kind of like they were having enough of it. Because that's the thing. I just think it was like one of those wind ups, just like, oh no, Rich is going to make another video about 5-star Scarlet Witch. But the thing is, I kept on finding things. It's like when I didn't want to find stuff, then something dropped in my lap, and I was like,
it was finding you.
Yeah, it was finding me. I think it was a sign. I think Kabam wanted to throw like breadcrumbs and like hope that I find it. Anyway, yeah, so that was a very interesting deep dive. I will put a link to it in the description if you do want to check it out up on www.frontline mcoc.home.blog, and you can read it for yourself. Full deep dives as well in all the sections, the findings and stuff like that. Like proper analytical data stuff, you know, like DNA 3000. He would be proud of what he saw there. Okay, so we'll now move on to the topic of variant 5, because there's a good amount to talk to about it. Obviously, we don't know anything about it, first and foremost. A lot of this stuff is us just speculating on builds, taking into consideration the dev diaries, feedback, the meta shift of the game, rewards, logic changing, and also other things when it comes to that as well. Where do we start with variant 5? Okay, so this game mode was created for a September release. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, they're bumping it up to August, but originally pre-new roadmap it was going to be September.
Yeah, and it came with a very odd thing that Kabam didn't understand first and foremost, or a bit surprised that variants were held in such high regard. That then they kind of went, oh, you really like variants? Well, even though everybody says they love variants. And now there's the talk about us getting more variants.
Right.
And I mean, that's good news. But obviously taking something that was has been, because I don't really know with Kabam. We don't know either, like whether or not they build stuff and then go, right, well, this is like, it's built. We then bring it to the live server on, we bring it here for everybody to see by September. But we've built it in like March. I'm not sure how it works with them, because they said, what is it? Like Alliance Wars Season 19 was built prior to May. So whether or not that was built in April, it's difficult to kind of like get an idea whether or not we're kind of. I should really get to a point. What I'm going to say is that if they've created it something like that in September, then do they have to make? What do you think, Dan? Do they have to make multiple changes to how it is?
I don't think so. I don't get the sense that they are that ahead on variants, because the only way they could bump variant 5 up to August was by pushing back the release of book 2.
Yeah.
So that kind of tells me is, whoever's working on variant 5 was going to be working on book 2 to hit that release over the summer, and then when that got scrapped, their time got freed up so they could actually do variant 5 and get it out for August. So I don't get the sense that it was just sitting there waiting to be released.
Yeah. I guess the concern with that is that time to create it, even if it's on paper, to say like, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to create this node, or this buff, this global buff, or X, Y, and Z. Maybe that has to be scrapped based on a lot of the stuff from the not dev diaries, but the general feedback. I I suppose it is. It could be said that it would be and would not be, because if they're creating something that is going to be triple noded,
Yeah.
and is more in keeping with, because this is the difficulty, isn't it? Because I see people in the forums talking about how the Canadian difficulty is like it's too ramped up in certain areas, and then others are talking about, oh no, but it's too easy in other places. And this is the problem that I think it goes back to like the survey where it talks about like, well, where are players at? Like if you thrust a triple noded thing in a variant, and like I can't remember, I think there was something like was it spry and gassed in variant 3 on a path?
Oh, I don't. That sounds right.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of those two nodes being put together. That's not cool.
No, exactly. I want to say that there was a path like that, but you know, I'm at the moment in the middle of a Labyrinth of Legends, and I can't kind of like go out to check. But in any case, the point to that is that if that's being created in the same vein as it was like last time for say variant 3, and yeah, okay, variant 4 was very different, but I don't think they'll replicate it. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah.
Would they replicate variant 4 with the kind of process of having different type of storages and it being an
I
ongoing thing?
I don't think so. At least not yet. I think they want variant 5 to be a new experience. So generally, I would say that the variants have hit the mark and have hit the mark more as each one proceeds. You know, I mean, variant 4, other than the Mordo fight, which is silly for a lot of the reasons that we've given a lot of feedback, it hit the mark and it was fun. I think that there's a certain segment of the community that thinks that based on the feedback, like any champion will be able to do any fight going forward. And that's not the case. Like there's still going to be nodes and gates and best options. Like the game is a puzzle. And part of the fun of the game is solving the puzzle, figuring out, you know, which champion is the best key to unlock the gate, right?
Yeah.
And it's all about them constructing puzzles that are fun, not puzzles that are punishing. So there's still going to be nodes. There's still going to be nodes that disqualify certain champions. There's always gates, and there always has been. If you put an auto bleed node on a champion, you know, that by definition is a gate. There are champions that you should not bring. You need to bring a bleed immune, right? But there's tons of bleed immune champions, so it's not that punishing of a node. That's the thing. And with the variants, a lot of times what we've seen is, all right, we're going to send you down this path, right? Like variant 3 is a perfect example, and based on what we've read about variant 5, I think it's going to be a little bit more like variant 3. So in variant 5, right, like if you're not bringing a tech champion, you get punished.
Yeah.
That's part of the gate. But if you bring tech champions, you're rewarded for doing that. If you bring more tech champions, you get an even bigger reward. And if you bring the tech champion they want you to bring, Sentinel, you get the biggest reward, right? So it's like we're taking stuff away, but we're giving you something else. That node design is fun for me, and I think it's fun for a lot of people because it allows us to use champions we don't always use and have fun solving the puzzle. And at times we can be like super OP because we were smart and we read the directions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, it sounds like with variant 5, right, like there's going to be, I mean, it's right there, there's going to be champion requirements. But we're keeping them act wide and layering them with tag targeted buffs that will make certain champions very potent in the right place. So yeah, that sounds a bit like variant 2, a bit like variant 3, and I'm totally okay with that. I think that's going to be fun. Like if we don't know who's going to be buffed, but if it's Spider-Man, you know, could there be a reason to play classic Spider-Man? Is Venom going to be super OP? Is Carnage going to be OP? Is Guillotine going to be ramped up? Like, these are the questions that I have.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, if using those champions is extra special and super fun within the context of variant 5, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, yeah. It's good to kind of think that variants have evolved and will keep evolving to
Yeah.
fit the needs of players. It's just when and Kabam need to kind of like make sure that they've got the finger on the pulse when it's all about the node creation and making sure that I'm not saying it's foolproofed,
Right.
but the variant 4 incident. Obviously, you're mentioning about the Mordo fight, and like if you don't, it's one of the that was one of the stages where you make the one mistake by going in with certain champions. I'll give you an idea because I made the mistake. I went in and committed without my 1-star Hulk, and I got as far as that Mordo fight, and I just went, oh Christ, I've gone all this way. What do I do?
Yep.
Do I spend a couple of revives and use a Vision Age of Ultron? And I was like, screw it. So I just did it. I went through it. It was just an absolute ball ache. But I mean, not just like for my mistake, but then there's other people who have said like, they sold their champions. By the way, never sell your champions. Never sell your champions. And I'm sure that if there's, I reckon there's going to be people out there that have sold 5-star Iron Patriot, or they've sold a 5-star Falcon or Gambit, just going to go like, oh no, I'm going to just sell these champions. And you'll be kicking yourself either like now. Who knew that we're now at a stage where Kabam are going to commit to buffing up champions?
But Rich, you bring up a point, and I think it parallels really well with what we're seeing in Canadian difficulty, and I think they're doing it well, but I know there's been some complaints on the forums about it seems like there's going to be one path a week that really messes up people who are new to sort of Act 6, Map 7 nodes, right? Like, so week 1 we had Buffed Up.
Yeah.
And I think Buffed Up is fine, but Buffed Up is the gate. Like, make no mistake, it is a gate, and if you don't read the node and understand it, then you will get stopped in your tracks. And the same thing with Diss Track this week. Now, of course, the difference between, say, some of the stuff we were complaining about in the Book 2 beta is, Buffed Up on its own or Diss Track on its own is fine. There's 25 plus champions in the game that can handle those nodes on their own. That's fine. It's not a very punishing gate. Yes, you have to plan for it, but let's be honest, you have someone, and if you don't right this second, you've got a few weeks to rank them up. And also, it's Canadian difficulty, and maybe if you're just hitting level 55 right now, maybe you have to be honest with yourself that you're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
But let's look at Diss Track, right? And where we can get into trouble with these kind of things with design, and what we're hoping Kabam gets away from. The problem isn't Diss Track, right? The problem is.
Sorry, I like the way you just say. Yeah, you
say. Yeah, I hear ya. So Diss Track, right? Like, that in and of itself is not a problem. But when we start the second nodes, the third nodes, and then the defenders we put on the path, that's where things can get really punishing. Like, Diss Track is fine, but what if we make it Diss Track and Tenacity? Then it's bad, right?
Yeah.
All right, and then what if the lane is Kingpin, Rogue, Emma Frost, King Groot, Agent Venom, and a Taskmaster boss, right? Like, then you've got a node you need to counter with a restrictive second counter with a restrictive defender.
Yeah.
And that's what Book 2 Act 1 was. That's what that felt like, right? Like a counter to the counter to the counter. And it becomes like one champ can do the fight. So like, that's the kind of stuff that we wanted them to get away from.
Yeah.
So, we're not seeing that yet in Canadian difficulty. And I'm glad about that. If we did, that would definitely be something to call out. So, I was thinking about like how you could do Diss Track horribly wrong.
It's so true that And we talked about this last week. The idea that when is a Cavalier player technically ready for what will be Cavalier difficulty? Because if there's a chance that you're going, right, well, I'm not ready, and then not next month, September, when the event quest comes out, because side quest is not ever meant to be like the overarching super difficulty. It's meant to be more of a kind of like there's a side quest so you can build more resources and rewards. Also, the element of how grindy it is, time value as well, because you can't ever say that I'd want to have like 10 paths or something. It's just like, well, that's like going to do like a mission of like it's like doing like act 6 chapter Act 6.1.6. It's like,
right.
Who wants to do it 10 times? I've got other stuff to be getting on with my day.
I mean, that's like 8 hours worth of work.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why would anybody want that?
Yeah, we don't want that in a side quest.
Exactly. It's meant to be quick, timely, and so you can get on with your day. You can also get into other content and grind that up. We're not always going to be in lockdown. We're not always going to have all spare time on our hands, or working from home that we can just sneakily play. But the point to get to is, if you feel you're ready, you're ready. But at the same time, there's twisting narratives to this that Kabam are allowing you, as we said last week, allowing you to use 4 stars, which there could be the issue that some players are either using for synergy works and you only have the allocation of 3 champions. So yes, you're going to have to be very smart with the 3 champions you choose. You'll have to choose a champion that interacts with Sasquatch just in case you come in contact with him. 1 champion that could theoretically take down the specific node you're going for, and as well maybe a secondary to back it up, or a synergy works in the same confine. If you haven't got any of those 3 things available, then it's a case you're going to have to think logically, and sometimes having the 4-star available is just going to mean you're going to be melted through anything with a 4-star, unless you want to be there for ages interacting and fighting. So that's the problem. There's players that obviously are very good and very skilled, that they've done and been and now at a point of being Cavalier, but your roster strength, depth, and knowledge may not be there.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of it is you can definitely tell that there is a segment of people who are doing Canadian difficulty that are being exposed to these nodes for the first time. And and listen, I feel them on that. That can be a tricky thing. I mean, we remember, you remember your first experience with Bane or Masochism?
Yeah.
Like now we can handle them just fine, but at the time it was pretty punishing. So it's all just part of the learning experience. So if you're a player that's just sort of getting into that level of difficulty, I think you just have to put on that learning mindset and say, all right, yeah, I'm going to take a few lumps. My roster isn't quite there. Understand that this difficulty is more tuned to people that have a dozen maxed 5-star champions. And that you might be punching a little bit above your weight class, but look at it as a challenge. And if you can get through the lane, and celebrate the victory.
Yeah, that's the thing to go, like, maybe try the easy path first.
Yes, try the easy path first, and then work up to it.
Absolutely. And this is the problem, because there's so many different voices on the forum and people in different places, and how things are told. Like, if people are going, Kabam, this is too easy, but then there's other people going, Kabam, this is too hard, then it's like, well, how
do they listen to?
Yeah, exactly. Who they listen to? How do they benchmark it? Because Kabam can't make Canadian difficulty tier 1 to 5 and then go, right, oh, I'm a tier 5, definitely tier 5, I can do the hardest stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, but I'm a tier 1. Oh, but am I a tier 1? So it's like, you if we splinter this too much, then it's just like it's not constructive enough for the developer to create a piece of content that is
right. They usually have a level that they are targeting a piece of content to. Now, a good example of that is the boss rushes, right?
Yeah.
So whenever a boss rush comes out, there's a lot of talk in the community. Now, boss rushes, according to Kabam, have been tuned to players with max 4 stars.
Right.
So, if we go in with 565 5 stars and say it's too easy, that feedback is well, you have to take that with a grain of salt, because of course we think it's easy. We're using champions that are more powerful than what the content is tuned to. And on the same token, if people are going in and they've got 3, 4, 40 4-star champions, well, that's not really what it's tuned to. So of course you're going to find it very difficult, right? And maybe you're seeing a few nodes that you haven't seen before, so it's going to be a big challenge. So that's part of it. It's and things change, right? Like variants used to be like with variant 1 was endgame content when it came out, but endgame content has moved beyond the tuning for variants. Variants have gotten less difficult, right? So I think we're seeing that with the rewards requests on the forum right now for the variant content, is people seem to be expecting endgame rewards for something that's not endgame content. Variant 5 is not going to be as hard as Act 6. No, it's just not. That's not what it is.
Yeah.
Like, we know that. Like, Variant 3 and Variant 4 are not as hard as Act 6. Nowhere close. Variant 5, I think people have to really think about where the difficulty level is going to be for this, and how that's going to line up with rewards, because Variant 5 isn't going to be end game content. Variants tend to fall in that late Act 5, early Act 6 bridge content category, where you get to a point in Act 6 and you're like, I need to diversify my roster. I'm going to go play some variants and get some more rewards and beef up the roster. So I think if people are expecting a bunch of 6-star shards or T5CC from this variant just because it's coming out in mid-2020, I think they're going to be disappointed, because I don't think the difficulty level is going to warrant those resources, and I don't think the difficulty level for it's going to be targeting those players.
Yeah, I guess this is the thing about where content is targeted at, and it's like saying, right, well, we're making variant 5 for everybody that is between the position of, I don't know, uncollected to early cavalier. Those are the people that will benefit from variant 5. If you are an endgame player, yes, you can do that if you want to. You might feel that the rewards are not in your kind of like bracket. So that's why we've done Summer of Pain. So I get that. I get why Kabam are doing that. And that's the thing, again, like, it's not to like cause anybody frustration by hearing that. It's just to basically say, look, Kabam need to build content for where you are at in the game. And and again, it goes back to, saying I'm an endgame player is like saying, right, well, you fall into like about, I don't know, 1 to 5 different tiers of an endgame player. Am I like a mature cavalier? Am I just become a cavalier? Have I reached the pinnacle of wailing out and doing every single content in the top alliance? Something needs to be there for you, and I guess that's what Kabam are trying to do with this, is just say, look, if you've got variant 1 to 4, but the rewards that you've seen, it's more than likely you're going to continue on in the same vein, except for one thing, Dan. Something that we were talking about a little bit before the podcast, and that was the variant rank up gems, which obviously seem to be very much like that's where they started the rank up gems in variants. And for a while, it only been like 2015 rank up gems. So obviously the ones that are just the class specific ones.
Yep.
But there's been a big talk about 2017 gems. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it feels a little early for that, because Blood and Venom was still a 2015 quest. So my expectation is that there's still going to be 2015 2016 gems. I certainly wouldn't mind 2017 2014 gem. I mean, you're talking about there's some heavy hitters in 2017. They picked it up. I mean, you've got Archangel, Blade, Angela, Carnage, Gwenpool, Iceman, King Groot,
Yep.
Medusa, Mephisto, Morningstar, Nebula, the soon-to-be improved Punisher 2099, Hood, Yondu. Like there's some solid stuff there. So certainly some that I personally wouldn't bring up to rank 4, but I would if I had the gem. If I'm being honest, I would much rather see a 2015/2016 4 to 5 gem than a 2017 3 to 4 gem. I would like to see them continue that trend of diversifying the rosters, helping us push a little further ahead, because a lot of those champions I wouldn't rank 5 with generic resources. But if you give me that gem, I mean, then you could talk me into some of those sort of B level champions. Or maybe maybe you've got a Magic or a Colossus or a Venom, that those are solid champions, but you just haven't been able to get to them, and that gem would help you. So personally, I would be lobbying for the 4 to 5 year gem rather than the later year 3 to 4 gem.
Yeah, because it does come to a point that, I mean, from an endgame player's perspective, or like, one that has, I don't know, done all of Act 6, done all of the variants, you're probably going to be coming to the point where you're stacking your rank up gems. And if they're yearly specific ones, you maybe reach to the point of going, look, I mean, I went for a big problem of only getting skill rank up gems. I think I'm sitting on, I think there was a time where I kept on getting 2015 to 2016 rank up gems skill. I think I'm sitting on 2 at the moment for 3 to 4. But I've had like about, I want to say 7 to about 8 ones. I think I think about 6 of those have been year specific ones. And
there's only 14 2015 and 2016 skill champions, and it's not a good list.
No, exactly. I think luckily they brought in Black Widow, so I think that's one of them. I think I did Winter Soldier. I've also done Hawkeye.
She's probably the best of them.
Yeah, exactly.
I know I used one on Punisher just because I had a 5-star Punisher from Arena Crystals, and I was like proud of it. So I was like, all right, sure, rank 4 Punisher, let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully Falcon's buff is good because he's in there.
Yeah,
but
true.
A lot of, you got Crossbones, you've got Hawkeye, but then, it drops off real quick. You're talking Moon Knight, Carnage, both Daredevils, both Black Panthers, Agent Venom. Like, those aren't champions you generally want to bring to rank 3 so that you can use the 3 to 4 gem.
No, exactly. Yeah, so this is the thing where I can see some need to get a 2017 one, but if Kabam committed to kind of doing more rank ups, and obviously some of these champions that I've got that aren't kind of like average at skill, average at any kind of like 2015 2016 type of area, we would see value down the line. I guess this is the difficulty with where players are at in the game, and as well, what again end game players or kind of end game players would really kind of rate this whole kind of situation of going, look, am I going to do a variant? Could I do I need a 5-star awakening gem? I mean, for me, like I kind of was a bit arrogant with the MODOK coins and the MODOK store, that I was like, because I felt like very disenfranchised last month. I was like, do I want to grind?
Right.
And kind of like pick up the Awakening Gem. So I gave it a little bit of a pass and had a more of an easygoing month. But, in hindsight, would it be more value to pick it up and then trying to get an extra Awakening Gem? I don't know. Quality of life balances, those kind of things. But the same thing with, I'd say, endgame players. Can I be bothered, or should it be of value for me to grind out variant 5, because the rewards just don't really sit right with me. However, though, I think I find that most people will go, oh, it's content, and I don't really not like 100%ing something. So I think anybody really is going to give it a go.
I mean, I think for those super endgame players, they're probably not going to have to spend much in the way of resources. So if they've got nothing else to do, at least there's some big chunks of gold in there usually. So
yeah, that's definitely,
that's nice. We like that.
And that's I think one of the things that is really appetizing about that. And if Kabam put a restriction on 6 stars not being in it, and maybe say like, well, you know, you can only use 5 stars and below, I guess that could be something to kind of go, look, this just means that you're not overkilling it, and you know, you're thinking strategically with your expansive 5-star rosters. The same thing, obviously, you'd say like, okay, well, you know, this is variant's a good opportunity to either go, do I have a 4-star version or a 5-star version of the champion? And a lot of the time saying, oh, have I got a 6-star version available? It is very rare, because it's like saying, who's got a 6-star King Groot to use in variant 2 at the time?
Right.
Very few people. Muggins here did. And he'd served pretty well, so that's one thing back in the day. But you know, that's the thing, is saying like, does somebody have a 6-star Punisher 2099 they could use in the upcoming variant 6, or the same thing would be variant 5? You know, say for whatever reason a 6-star Spider-Man is going to be as in the science version. The classic version is going to be the of value champion. It's like, who's got that? You know, it's one of these things are going like, deeper, just come and put restrictions saying 5 stars, or you know, I just thinking like, it's difficult to say. Do endgame players see it of value, and like, will up and coming players that just come up uncollected, will they be able to do it? And I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting to see. What I'm noticing though is there is a level restriction for variants. You do have to be level 45 to enter the variants, which does give you a little bit of an idea about where they begin to think that variants are appropriate for players. You know, you got that 45,000 to 50,000 recommended team rating for variant 2. You know, what's funny is variant 1 you can get into at level 40, and variant 1 is by far the hardest.
Yeah.
Like, nobody level 40 should even be touching variant 1 unless it's your second account and you've already 100%ed it before, because that one requires such deep knowledge of the game and such a diverse roster. Like, nobody level 40 is ready for variant 1.
Yeah, I mean, I've just picked up by the time this video comes out, because I've pre-recorded the content, but I've just picked up a 5-star version of Gladiator Hulk. I've got a 4-star version, but it just doesn't really kind of like cut the mustard with a 5-star version.
You need, like, he's one where he doesn't, you know, he's a utility champ. He doesn't punch that hard, so you really need him fully ranked up. You need the 5-star.
Yeah.
Speaking of someone who has the 6-star.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
It's like it's one of these things where I won't go back to 100% variant 1. I did the initial completion, and it was fairly good, but I had to put suicides on. I had to like choose Corvus for most of it, but then there's other lanes I'm just like, no, I can't really use Corvus on this lane.
No, you can't.
And it's just like,
or I mean, you can, but it's just a resource dump.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, well, I'll go back into it, but I probably will have I may be like speak it as like one of the content I've got 100%, because this is RichTheMan's summer of 100%ing old content that I should have done a long time ago. But again, roster permitting to really do a lot of the stuff as well. So,
oh sure,
that's been one of the biggest kind of pitfalls to do. So you know you've got to get back into it and go for the grind. But that's the thing, isn't it? Variant 5, where I'm always excited for it, but I don't know. I don't know who it's going to be aimed at, and obviously what people's expectations, because that's the biggest thing as well. What people expect from that.
Yeah, it's always difficult managing expectations, and of course a lot of that is set by the content creators in the community, and many of the biggest ones are, if I'm correct about the difficulty level, these are these people who are going to be setting expectations and talking about this piece of content. They are beyond variant level difficulty. These people are 100% Abyss and 100% Act 6, right? So that is going to impact some of how the community views this content, because for a lot of those people it's probably going to be pretty easy.
Yeah, that's true. But there we go. Has been that. Is there anything more we could be talking about today?
No, I think that's it. We are on a short week as far as this week's podcast goes and recording it. So I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, because like I said, there's not really much going on. It could be some like information dump soon. But to be honest, it's like recording this on the 9th. The last news dump is usually on a Friday. Could we see something on the 10th? Possibly, but I doubt it, because we're only like a short time into the month.
Yeah, I'm not really expecting anything anytime soon. Variant 5 probably won't be out the first week of August. They usually don't drop pieces of content like that at the same time as the event quest. So, that could be something that drops on the 12th or the 19th, but I don't think it will be the 5th. We do know that the first boss rush is coming on the 29th of July, but even that's a few weeks away. So I think we're in a little bit of a lull as far as the news goes.
Yeah, that's the thing for me. I've got enough to fill up a Friday Marvel Contest Champions news, which would have gone out on the 10th, but I've got no idea with what I've got stored up for the 13th. I'm expecting some big mistake to happen or something. If not, it's just going to be a very kind of like open and shut case, talking about arena predictions and
Rich is sitting here hoping that the game goes down during the first Alliance War of the season. Are
we going to get compensation?
We have compensation. What happened? Are we going to cancel the season? You need a little spicy drama.
Exactly. Maybe I should start a thing about 6-star Scarlet Witch. No, I can't do that.
I would. You gotta save that. Save that for at least until you have the 5-star. You can't start the 6-star time.
Yeah, I need to make
that's the rule.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, this is why I've done Labyrinth for Legends push now, is to get all those 5-star signatures. And yeah, the 5-star signature stones are out there, but let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to be able to get myself, even if I get a Scarlet Witch at 5-star, I'll be like, yes, fantastic. I've wailed out. I've wasted my money. But if it's a case I've got her, I want to take her to closer to 200 signatures as possible, and I think I'd probably be able to only take her close to 100 signatures, and that's if 100% Labyrinth for Legends. Pick up the Sasquatch kind of extra signature stones, and whatever is then built up from between now and when we estimated a September release for that champion, and potential early access or featured Cavaliers. So we'll see what happens to that. Dan, what are you up to next week?
Just writing more guides. Gonna focus on my second account, working my way through Act 1, and we'll see what curveball week 3 of Canadian difficulty throws us, because I have a feeling I'm probably gonna have to put together a champ list to help people out with whatever the tricky new node is.
Gotcha. What am I doing? I think I've got a few things that I'm going to be doing guides as well. Labyrinth for Legends, 100% guide. I'm going to try and factor in. I'm going to do Aegon with various synergies guide to Labyrinth for Legends, and just try road testing a few that other people have sent me. As to not saying which one's the best, because at the end of the day, everyone says that oh no, this Aegon synergy is the best. So it's it's nice to kind of find out. Also, we'll probably be figuring out what we're going to do for an incursions stream on next Friday. And also, what am I going to be doing as well? Probably some obscure guides, maybe some obscure videos, like the idea that Alien and Predator could be in Marvel Contest of Champions at a later date. And those that
could be kind of fun.
Yeah, I know.
I know people would have strong reactions to it, but if they did it right,
Yeah.
maybe,
I,
maybe.
I don't think it's out of the realms of like ridiculous, especially with Mortal Kombat having RoboCop and Terminator in Warner Brothers Entertainment, their games side of things, having Injustice, where they brought Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles into it, and stuff like that, and how they've kind of like combined things. It's a bit of a weird one as the comic book side of things. There's promotional images gone out with Predator holding a Iron Man drone, like an Iron Legion drone, and standing on top of the Avengers Tower with the kind of the Robo head in its hand, and like putting it in that universe is very different to say like. And I tried to do some research, but I've put in Friday's edition of the news where I've looked at, well, what games have done just that, where they've combined universes and stuff, like Disney's Infinity something or other. They've done it, where they've combined them. But I think it's very different with MCOC then going, okay, should we take in Alien and Predator into it, and what kind of is that from the adult side of things? Star Wars hasn't kind of crossed universes, but it has been talked about. But I don't think it would ever happen because it's too complex of universes and timelines to try and figure that in. But man, that's a lot of stuff.
It is, but MCOC is a game that's about the multiverse. So
yeah,
it's all about the story making sense. I think they would only do it if they thought they had the story to make it work.
Yeah, because it's not exactly Alien and Predator in Secret Wars, which obviously a lot of Marvel Contest Champions. It's like, there was a secret war going on, Alien and Predator. The thing is, it's not really like their kind of like origins and backstory and stuff. It's not very interesting unless you kind of like take into all the Prometheus crap, but then that's another story for another day.
Yeah. There's this whole like extended universe of movies that are also have callbacks to Alien and Predator. Like apparently Ridley Scott said that Blade Runner is set in the same universe as the Alien and Predator movies, and apparently there's callback in Firefly and Serenity. There's some Easter eggs that tell you that it could be in the same universe as Alien and Predator as well.
Wow.
So, and there's other movies too. I'd have to find the list. There's a whole bunch of stuff online where like the same country that they go to fight the Predator is referenced. It's a fictional country, but it's referenced in other non-Predator movies that make you think like everything could be in the same universe. So
that's crazy.
There might be a deeper web than we even know.
Yeah, well, that's something like it would be really surprising if we talk about like an episode, I don't know, like 100 or 200 that we're getting Alien and Predator into the game. That would be crazy.
Come on, you wanna see Wolverine versus Predator?
Who
really is? They need to decide who is really the best at what they do.
That's true. Who looks? To be honest, they look the same. One just looks like an alien version of it, and is a lot taller.
Yeah, I mean, after they fight, they're both going to look the same.
Exactly. Right, and on that note, that has been the podcast. Make sure to catch all Dan's links in the descriptions and the bios down below, and we'll see you next week for another edition. Thanks, everybody. Bye bye.